Glorilla was performing live at the WNBA All-Star Game when police raided her home hundreds of miles away. Hours later, she was in jail and under attack. This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a calculated takedown. Bogus charges, no protection, and a brutal beating behind bars. So who really set her up, and why? What you're about to hear will make you question everything. Let's break it all down.
The break-in and the setup. It started like any other night until it didn't. While Glorilla was hundreds of miles away in Indianapolis hyping up a crowd at the WNBA All-Star Game, her home in Forsyth County, Georgia became the scene of a terrifying break-in. 3 intruders reportedly smashed their way into her gated property in the middle of the night, but they didn't expect someone to be there. A family member inside, still unnamed, grabbed a firearm and opened fire to protect the home. The burglars fled. The threat was over. Or so it should have been. But when the police arrived, their focus wasn't on catching the intruders. It wasn't about securing the home. They went straight for Glorilla's bedroom. Inside, they claimed to find 2.8 pounds of marijuana and jars of THC wax. And just like that, the narrative shifted. Not about the crime against her, not about the trauma of the break-in. Now it was about what she allegedly owned. Glorilla wasn't even there. She was still on stage performing for thousands. But that didn't stop authorities from charging her with felony drug possession. Let that sink in. Her house was invaded, her family had to shoot to defend themselves, yet the only person taken into custody was her. It's hard not to see the setup. This wasn't about weed. It wasn't about safety. It was about sending a message, about power, about punishing a woman who dared to be loud, rich, and unapologetically herself in a neighborhood that wasn't built for her success. And the timing? Almost too perfect. The raid happened while she had a concrete alibi, performing live at a nationally televised event. Still, they issued the warrant. Still, they booked her. Still, they made sure her mugshot went viral before the truth ever had a chance to be heard. But as wild as that is, it was just the beginning.
Past arrest and public scrutiny. This wasn't Glorilla's first time facing flashing lights in cold cuffs. A little over a year ago, what should have been just another late-night drive turned into a viral storm. Police body cam footage, now all over YouTube, shows Glorilla pulled over, visibly confused, slurring her words, and clearly caught off guard. At first, she tries to play it cool. "I'm cold," she says, brushing it off with a nervous laugh. But the officer wasn't laughing. He presses her. "How many drinks did you have?" She flips, first says 4, then 7, then insists she's not drunk. The back and forth grows tense. Then comes the line that changed everything. "I got a gun right next to my knife." That one sentence turned a DUI stop into a felony arrest. The officers wasted no time. "Turn around for me. I'm gonna take 2. That doesn't change anything. You're under arrest." The clip shows her pleading, even joking through her nerves. "Boy, you ain't got no boob on me." But the cuffs still came. The headlines followed. And the trolls, they swarmed. That moment stuck. It became ammunition. Every critic, every blog, every hater who wanted to question her success or image now had evidence. They painted her as reckless, unstable, undeserving. But here's what they didn't show. She was human, a woman dealing with pressure, fame, trauma, all in the public eye. And when the camera stopped rolling, she still had to face it alone. So when the Forsyth County arrest hit, the narrative was already shaped. She's been in trouble before. She's not innocent. She brought this on herself. That's how the system works. It doesn't forget. It doesn't forgive. And if you're a black woman with power and a platform, it doesn't protect you either. But that arrest, that traffic stop, it was nothing compared to what came next. Because once Glorilla stepped inside that jail cell, she wasn't just a rapper anymore. She was a target.
The jail attack. By the time Glorilla's fingerprints hit the booking system at Forsyth County Jail, she was no longer treated as a chart-topping rapper. She was just another inmate, but with a target on her back. Within hours of arriving, word had spread through the jail. Glorilla was here. But instead of excitement or respect, what followed was something colder: jealousy, resentment, and hate. Sources from inside the jail began leaking details. She wasn't placed in protective custody. She wasn't isolated from general population. She was thrown into the chaos, like a setup waiting to happen. According to one former inmate speaking anonymously to a Memphis blogger, guards didn't care who she was. In fact, some may have even wanted the chaos. They threw her in general like she was nobody. And then the verbal abuse started. Inmates reportedly mocked her, threatened her, called her a fake, told her she wasn't too famous to get touched. One woman allegedly screamed, "You ain't untouchable, Glo, you just next." That's when it escalated. One inmate reportedly grabbed her by the hair, swung a punch, and slammed her into a concrete wall. Another source claimed Glorilla's lip was busted, her head was bleeding, and she was visibly shaken when officers finally stepped in. But here's the most disturbing part. There's no record she got medical treatment, no hospital visit, no public statement from the jail, just silence. Institutional gaslighting, that's what some are calling it, and it's not new. When violence happens inside jails, especially to black women, the system's first move is to pretend it never occurred, to erase the pain, to erase the person. Glorilla's beating wasn't just a fight, it was symbolic. It was about humiliation, about stripping her power, reminding her that celebrity status means nothing behind those walls. And the message was clear. You can win Grammys, you can sell out arenas, but the system still owns your body and your silence. But Glorilla, she didn't stay silent. Not for long, because what happened in that cell wasn't the end of her story. It was a warning shot for what this system is willing to do to a black woman who rises too fast.
Forsyth County's dark past. The name Forsyth County might not ring alarm bells for everyone, but for those who know history, it's a place steeped in shadows. In the early 1900s, Forsyth was ground zero for one of the most violent racial expulsions in U.S. history. After a white woman was found murdered, a wave of racial terror swept through the county. White mobs forced every black resident out, nearly 1,100 people, at gunpoint. Homes were burned, land was stolen, and for nearly a century afterward, Forsyth was proudly, defiantly, all white. That wasn't accidental, that was policy, violence, and silence wrapped together. So when Glorilla, a black woman from North Memphis, buys property there, lives there, dares to succeed there, it hits different. It challenges every piece of that county's racist foundation. A woman who came from the hood, now walking through gated communities in designer heels. To some, that's not success, that's defiance. And when the system came for her, it did so with centuries of precedent. Let's be clear, this wasn't just any drug raid. It happened in a county where the soil still holds the memory of lynchings, cross-burnings, and organized ethnic cleansing. And now that same soil is where a rising black star is dragged out in handcuffs, humiliated, and beaten in jail. You can't separate the present from the past. When Glorilla's mugshot was plastered across national media, it wasn't just about marijuana. It was about sending a message. You don't belong here. But Glorilla isn't just surviving in a place that tried to erase people like her. She's thriving, and that's exactly why she's dangerous to the system. A young black woman who escaped poverty, owns property, commands stages, and refuses to shrink? In Forsyth County, that's not just rare, it's revolutionary. The legal trap. Let's talk facts, because legally, this entire case shouldn't hold water. At the time of the raid, Glorilla wasn't even in the state. She was on stage in Indianapolis, performing in front of thousands. That's a rock-solid alibi. The drugs weren't found on her person. They weren't in her car. They were inside her bedroom, in a house she wasn't occupying at the time. And yet, she's the one facing felony charges. Georgia law is clear. Felony marijuana possession starts in just 1 ounce. Deputies claim they found nearly 3 pounds of marijuana and jars of THC wax in her room. But what matters in court isn't just the weight, it's who had access and control. And here's the twist. Someone else was staying in the house, multiple occupants. One of them, a family member, was there when the break-in happened and fired a gun at the intruders. So how did they decide Glorilla was the one responsible? It's simple. Her name was on the property, her face was famous, and in the American justice system, that's sometimes all it takes. When you're a celebrity, you don't just carry influence, you carry blame, because it's easier to arrest someone the public already knows. The fact that law enforcement didn't charge anyone else living in the home, that they waited until the cameras were watching and social media was buzzing, that's not justice, that's strategy. It's what critics call name-first prosecution. You grab the most recognizable person, slap charges on them, and let the headlines do the rest. It's great for optics, terrible for truth. This wasn't just a legal charge, it was a public spectacle. And when you place a black woman at the center of that spectacle, especially one with power and presence, it stops being about weed and starts being about control. Industry silence and double standards. As Glorilla's mugshot spread like wildfire, one thing became painfully clear. The industry got real quiet real fast. Where were the WNBA reps who booked her just days before? Where were the streaming platforms that promoted her TikToks, pushed her singles, and cashed in on her virality? Where were the artists who once called her sis, posed for red carpets, and shouted her out during award shows? Nowhere. The silence wasn't just loud, it was strategic. Because when black women in music face legal trouble or public scandal, the industry suddenly forgets who they are. And the pattern is chilling. We saw it with Megan Thee Stallion when she was shot and still had to prove she was a victim. We saw it with Cardi B when her past was weaponized. We saw it with Remy Ma, Da Brat, Azealia Banks, women who were once praised until they became inconvenient. Meanwhile, white celebrities build empires off the same weed Glorilla's being charged for. Seth Rogen has a thriving marijuana business. Miley Cyrus flaunted her weed use in music videos and live performances. Actors, comedians, influencers laugh about getting high in interviews. And the industry? They gave them product lines, brand deals, and media campaigns. But Glorilla? She gets a felony. This isn't about drugs. It's about who's allowed to break the rules and who gets broken for them. Because when you're a black woman in the music industry, success comes with a leash. You can shine, but only if you stay safe, stay polished, stay quiet. Glorilla didn't. She was loud, raw, vulnerable, and that's why she became a target. And the industry, it turned its back because silence is cheaper than accountability. But Glorilla's fans didn't stay silent. #FreeGlow trended within hours. Blogs began to dig deeper. Protest memes replaced viral jokes. Because what was happening wasn't a fall from grace, it was a takedown.
Her rise from the bottom. Before the mugshot, before the Grammy noms, before the WNBA stage and the viral headlines, there was Gloria Hallelujah Woods. Not a brand, not a headline, just a young girl from Frayser, North Memphis, growing up in a house packed with 10 siblings, sleeping on air mattresses, and holding on to faith like it was oxygen. Her mom gave her the name Hallelujah for a reason. She marked me, Glorilla once said. It wasn't about being special, it was about survival. Raised in the church, she sang in choirs. At one point, she even wanted to be a gospel artist. But Memphis wasn't soft. It was hard. Streets full of struggle, violence, heartbreak. And Glorilla, she absorbed all of it and turned it into fuel. She started rapping in high school. No studio, no label, just raw ambition and homemade beats. She called herself Big Glow, and her voice, unmistakable, deep, gritty, powerful. You didn't forget it. Then, in April 2022, FNF dropped,
a wild, loud anthem about independence, freedom, and female friendship. Filmed in Memphis on the street with her homegirls twerking on car hoods, the video was low budget, but it looked like us. Real, Southern, unfiltered. And it exploded. TikTok couldn't get enough. Women everywhere were chanting, "I'm FREE, fuck nigga free." It wasn't just a song, it was a moment. That moment launched her into the stratosphere. Cardi B co-signed, Tomorrow 2 dropped, BET stages followed, Grammy nominations, a record deal with CMG, $500,000 on the table. Glorilla became more than a rapper. She became a movement. But even at her peak, she showed us her pain. She talked about heartbreak, about trust, about healing. She even did a 60-day celibacy challenge just to reset her spirit. "I had to get back on my P's," she said. That's what makes this takedown so hard to watch. Because we didn't just watch her rise, we watched her rebuild. And now, they're trying to tear it all down.
The pattern of disposability. Glorilla's story isn't an isolated tragedy. It's part of a pattern, a systemic cycle that the music industry knows all too well. Build them up, use them, discard them. Because when it comes to black female rappers, the industry has one rule. You can be hot, but only for a moment. And only if you're safe, silent, and marketable. Just look back. Foxy Brown was untouchable in the 90s, signed at 16, platinum by 18. But when health issues hit and her image didn't fit the mold anymore, they left her. DeBrat broke barriers as the first female solo rapper to go platinum. But when she got arrested in 2007, 3 years in prison, 0 industry support. Remy Ma, one of the best lyricists in the game. But after her 2008 conviction, the narrative became about her temper, not her talent. Azealia Banks, a visionary, brutally honest, and wildly talented, but she refused to play the game. She spoke up about racism, double standards, mental health, and the press turned her into a punchline. And then there's Megan Thee Stallion. Shot, went to court, won. And what does she get? Mockery, doubt, silence from people who once called her family? It's not about mistakes, it's about control. The moment these women demand more ownership, more respect, more protection, the machine starts pushing them out. The same industry that celebrates their come-up erases them on the way down. Glorilla is just the latest name on that list. Her arrest didn't start with the crime. It started the second she became too real, too loud, too successful, to herself. And that's what the system fears most. A black woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to show it. Because if she wins, on her terms, that's not just music, that's revolution.
Conclusion. Still standing. They tried to reduce her to a headline, a mugshot, a charge, a problem. But Glorilla is none of those things. She is not her arrest record. She is not the bruises on her face, or the silence from those who once cheered her name. She is a symbol of grit, of faith, of fire. From sleeping on air mattresses to owning property in a county that once drove families like hers out by force, she is defiance in human form. And that terrifies people, because Glorilla represents something the system can't control. A black woman who won't stay in her place, who doesn't filter her voice, who doesn't soften her slang, who refuses to play safe for white comfort. And that's why they came for her. They didn't just arrest her, they tried to erase her, strip her of her power, isolate her in a jail cell, let her bleed. And yet, she's still here, still rising, still fighting, still turning up. Because Glorilla walks in the footsteps of every black woman the industry has tried to bury. And this time, we see it coming. We're not letting them win. This story isn't about marijuana. It's not about fame. It's about power. Who's allowed to have it? who gets punished for holding it, and who gets silenced when they dare to speak while black, female, and free. Glorilla is chaos and confidence. She is gospel and grit. She is trauma and triumph. And no mugshot, no felony, no silent industry can take that away. So, while the system sharpens its knives and the headlines twist the truth, just know this: she's still going, and she's not going alone.